Welcome to Don't Get Your Hopes Up. This show is brought to you in part by and Mike B.
I just wanted to bring it back up, you know? You dropped something, sir. Let me get that for you. That was so... What I love about that is, like, I reached over and grabbed... Before you grabbed the kazoo, you started to do the kazoo, I reached over, grabbed the stylophone, and turned it on because I was like, I feel like this might come in handy. I got your message, your telepathic messages, man. I heard them. Excellent. I heard them.
It's almost like we've done podcasts before. Welcome back to Don't Get Your Hopes Up, the show where we apparently do that and talk about stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of stuff, a lot of stuff has happened since the last time we did a podcast.
Yes. One
of those things that happened a little while ago, but I think is still relevant to talk about. I don't know why I'm talking like this. So Twitch did a thing.
Yes, it did.
And it seems like 90% of what we talk about on this show starts with the phrase Twitch did a thing.
Being on Twitch.
Yeah. But so this one's interesting. They've introduced this new quote unquote cheering thing as a way to tip streamers.
Right.
The way it works is you buy a whole bunch of, I think they call them bits. And they go, hey, everybody, buy a bunch of bits, and then you can go to streamers that have bits active anyway, or cheers active, and you can just drop some in the chat. And you say, okay, yeah, cheer 1, and it gives them 1 bit, or cheer 100, and it gives them 100 bits. And there's different, there's little animated emotes for them, which, they're animated, but they're not cool, so I don't think that's really relevant.
I feel like the bits, they're called bits, and the little shape is supposed to reflect the bit from Tron, maybe? Because the bit has that kind of dodecahedron weird shape thing going to it, so maybe, I don't know. It doesn't, but outside of that, it doesn't feel too inventive.
Yeah. Basically what they've done is they've taken donations and tried to turn it into microtransactions so that instead of going to a streamer and saying, hello, streamer, would you like $5? And they say yes, which is exactly how donations work. Not really. Instead of going to a streamer and just giving them $5 or $10 or whatever it is, you go, here, have some bits. And then Twitch pays them later based on the amount of bits that you give them, which is based on the money that they've received from you purchasing the bits in the first place. So it's, in a weird roundabout way, it's very similar to things like buying gems in a mobile game or something like that.
Sure.
You spend money on the gems, you use the gems to get other things. This is you spend money on the bits, you use bits to tip streamers. So here's what I think is interesting about this. A lot of people have looked at this immediately as Twitch trying to get in on that donation market. Because Twitch alerts for a while, I think they've turned it off at this point. But for a while, Twitch Alerts was taking 1% off of every donation that went through.
Yeah, they don't take any anymore.
They don't take any anymore, and that's mostly because they don't need to, because they made fucking bank on that 1%.
Yes. And yeah, I knowing the guy who built it, and knowing how much he made the first month he launched it, which I won't disclose, but let me tell you, it was a fucking stupid amount of money.
Yeah. Yeah, that dude, he's going to be the next Elon Musk. He's going to take what he, there's actually, as I think about it, there's actually a lot of parallels that you can draw there. Oh yeah, PayPal. Remember when PayPal charged you money to send money to other friends? They made fucking bank. Now they go to space because fuck you. So there's just a lot of money in that market. A lot of people are looking at that as Twitch trying to get in on that market. And I'm sure that that's at least partly the result of it, or partly the goal, but I don't think that people should be looking at this assuming that it's adopted, which right now only 5 streamers even have the ability to receive bits. So,
and they're getting bank off of it because everyone that wants to test it, it's like, yeah, I'll just throw you $1 times.
Initially they were. I think it's kind of fallen off at this point.
Oh yeah, sure.
But initially they were. But like a lot of people are sort of looking at it as a replacement for donations, and like, why would I buy 5,000 bits and then give 5,000 bits to the streamer instead of just giving him whatever the equivalent amount of money is? And I kind of think that's the wrong way to look at it, because if this system works, they're not. I don't think they're aiming for the, hey, buy bits from us and then give all of that to a streamer angle. I think they're aiming for the buy a whole bunch of bits, and then when streamers do stuff that you like, you can give them a little tip. Like, I can give somebody 1 bit, and I don't feel like an asshole. If I give them 1.4 cents, I feel like an asshole. So I think what they're aiming for here is the sort of like, hey, streamer, yeah, nice kill. Here, you get 20 bits for that. Or, wow, you said a hilarious thing. Here, have some bits. Like, this was a funny, like, oh, Shizzle, you up and died out of the middle of nowhere in DayZ again because some sniper caught you. And you were looting for like 4 hours. Here, have 5 bits for it. And I think that's kind of the direction that they want to take the system, not to replace donations, because I mean, donations, they're kind of ingrained at this point. Yes. You're not going to have a streamer who doesn't accept donations and says, oh, just buy bits instead. Because
and no one's going to steer, especially if Twitch is going to take more than PayPal, which is anything.
Yeah.
They're definitely not going to steer anybody in that direction.
Yeah, exactly. Like, streamers aren't going to say, hey, everybody, buy some bits and send me some. They're going to say, hey, please send me a donation because it really helps, blah, 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 blah. But I think what we'll see, if this is successful, and obviously, like, the streamers that have had bits active seem to so far have been reporting a success. I don't know if that's because people wanted to try out the system and they only had a few options to do it for. Like, if I watch WoW streamers and I want to try bits, I'm gonna give my bits to Towley. Like, that's just how it's gonna go because he's the only one that had them. But I think what we'll start to see is, as streamers start to really think about this, and this is the part that I actually kind of start to worry about a little bit. As we see streamers start to think about, okay, bits are a non-trivial amount of income, what can I do to earn more bits? We'll start seeing them do things that they think will result in people giving them bits. And that might be something as simple as, hey, everybody, toss 5 bits in the chat and I'll invite you to my group. Or it may be like, hey, I've noticed that when I rage like an asshole every time I die in this video game, people shower me in bits. If I say, yeah, that guy outplayed me. Sorry, guys, I'm just going to have to try again. Wow, I'm not doing very well today. Anything realistic and anything reasonable, they're not going to get bits for that. But when they go, fuck this fucking game, this is fucking bullshit, I can't believe Widowmaker's so overpowered, Bastion OP, that's when they're going to start getting bits, because people will be like, lol, it's so funny, oh, he's an entertaining streamer. And that can really change the way that streamers actually stream.
So, yes, absolutely. Those are all definitely ways that they could go. One of the things that kind of first popped into my head was being in from what I've heard, My Free Cams, they use a system called, and this actually goes for a lot of campsites, according to a buddy of mine. They use a system that's very similar, where you buy coins or some kind of currency, and what they do is they have goals set up, right, where they you could use it like tiers, like you said, like, if you give me X amount of whatever, then you can play with me. Obviously that has a different connotation entirely on these other sites, but in Twitch's case, makes sense. And then they can also set up tiers, goals, basically. It'll essentially be community goals. And these goals will be, if I reach 10,000 bits, then I will, let's use High Guy as an example. You know who he is, right?
No.
So High Guy, this guy is, every time he gets you probably saw me like spamming his shit like one night, but every time he gets like a sub, he gets up and he does like a crazy fucking dance, right? With like green screen and like all these overlays and everything, and it's you feel like you're watching like a random like music video in Japan, stuff like that. Like he has a whole system already designed to support that kind of stuff. Like whenever you get a certain hit a certain goal, he's gonna shake weight or something, right? Something stupid that his community loves, and I think is hilarious. People are gonna come up with creative ways of saying, yeah, we get these goals, we get this, and then if we reach another goal, we get this, and you set that up on a per stream basis. So it's like, hey, all right, before the end of the stream, the goal is to make X number of points, which in our case right now. Like for me, it's like, yeah, the goal is to try to get X number of subs or resubs in a stream. But there's no tier. Like for me, I don't say, yeah, I want to get 10 resubs or subs in a single stream. But if I get at every 2, I'm going to do blank. Like that's not set up for me like that. But with bits, that would make sense. You set that up and you set up a tier system. So now it's like, okay, every 100 bits, I'm going to show you my feet or something. I have no idea. But there will be creative ways of doing that. It's going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen. And so this allows them the flexibility of doing that. And from the end user, or from the buyer of the points, initially the viewer, it just gives them something they can just get on, and just like any microtransaction in any other game, or like any cam site. They can just buy a hand for like 5,000 or 10,000 bits, and just any streamer they watch, they could just go in and be like, oh yeah, that was great. Here's 20 bits. Here's 20 bits, and just kind of throw them around like whatever. And that's it. It's just throw them around, and it just adds up like across they'll eventually spend $100 in bits, but it would have that love would have been spread amongst a bunch of people. Whereas they probably wouldn't have just jumped in and be like, yeah, I will give you $50 and then you $25 and you whatever. Like it probably wouldn't have worked that way. I think it's great. It's great. It's not going to replace donations, so no one has anything to fear from that. Yeah. But it just adds another layer of, in my opinion, like interaction, because you put things on goals, and you can do all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, definitely. One thing a bunch of people have been talking about as well is chargebacks, which are a real problem for a lot of streamers with donations. Like a lot of times you'll see someone in a chat room, like they'll get some crazy ass donation and be like, oh, it's $100 donation or $500 donation or something like that. They'll be like, oh my God, that's amazing. Oh, thank you so much. And they're like really, really excited and happy, and they're cheering about it. And then what happens is, as soon as they're done streaming, the person initiates a chargeback, says, I didn't get what I wanted. And PayPal tends to always side on the payers side of things, because they want people to obviously feel safe spending money through PayPal.
Yeah.
So they'll go, oh, you didn't get what you wanted? All right, that's fine. We'll take the money back. And then the person never actually gets that donation. And a lot of times that'll come even days or weeks later. So if you're a broke-ass streamer and you get a $500 donation and someone says, hey, this is to buy that video card you've been wanting to get, and you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. Oh my God, I'll order it right now. And you order it, and then they charge back. Not only do you now not have that $500, but you've just spent it. So you've run out of that money. Like you now have to come up with $500 of your own money to pay for that. So with the bit system, there are no chargebacks. You can't say to Twitch, hey, I didn't get my bits, because A, they're using Amazon payments instead of PayPal. And Amazon is going to be like, no, actually, yeah, we gave them to you. They're right there. You can spend them if you want. And B, if for whatever reason Twitch does decide to refund somebody for buying bits or something like that, they're not going to then, like, they're going to absorb that cost. They're not going to then go and revoke all of the bits that other people gave. Or possibly, I guess another way that they could do it is, since they haven't actually paid out yet, because it just all gets rolled into your monthly payments from Twitch, they could say, oh, okay, well, then this guy's now gotten 50 less bits than what he thought he did. So yeah, it's... There's a lot of very interesting, important things going on there. I am still a little bit worried personally about, just because change is terrifying, I think it can very strongly change the way that Twitch streamers want to stream. Maybe in a good way, maybe in a bad way. Just kind of depends on how people end up adopting the bit system as it rolls out.
It can absolutely turn into everybody becomes a caricature of everybody's stream becomes a caricature of itself. Like in my case, and I'll probably do this, right? Because it's an excuse to play Trials. But I'm sure if I play Trials, and if I'm fucking, like last night I was donkeying something, and for those of you guys who have no idea what I'm talking about, this is probably fantastic clips for you. I was donkeying something, and I would reach a point where I didn't feel like I could go any farther, and then suddenly I'd realize, oh my god, I could totally do this, and so I would have to just basically donkey harder and whatever. So stuff like that those are the kinds of things that are completely bit compatible, right? Shizzle, like you were bringing up these situations from different streamers, and it's like, you know what, that's their thing, you know.
Yeah.
Shizzle getting killed by a random person and you know, and freaking out, like that's his thing, you know. And everybody has that thing, and those are the things that, you know, if they realize that's the stuff that they could do more often and get more bits, they're going to do that thing. And so what could happen is the diversity that, you know, some people have, you know, may kind of go away. Like, let's just go ahead and keep using Shizzle's example because we love Shizzle. But like, if Shizzle is getting, you know, 1,000 bits per death, you know, or whatever the currency is, right? 5,000 bits per death on average, in DayZ, suddenly DayZ may not be so bad. Maybe he'll just go in and play it a little bit more, you know, because the bits add up. Like, he just, fuck it, maybe we'll just do it, and it's just worth the money.
Yep, definitely. I don't think I actually have anything to add to that. That's pretty much it. Yeah,
and we're done with that subject. Holy shit, what happened to the transitions?
Yeah. Yeah, so speaking of transitions, by which I mean moving from one thing into another, by which I mean sort of blurring the lines between different things, by which I mean augmented reality, by which I mean Pokemon Go came out.
This is terrible.
And sucks.
Sorry, we're getting warm. What? No, their servers suck, and their ability to remember to remember logins sucks. Oh my god, it's the worst. Oh my god.
It's a good game. It's fun when you can play it.
Yes.
Good luck playing it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be fixed in a week.
Oh yeah, but it's the launch day thing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so for those unfamiliar, Pokemon Go is an ARG version of Pokemon where you basically walk around IRL outside to collect Pokemon. Now, you're not walking around with the phone out and the camera going, kind of like Google Glass, and looking for Pokemon, but that part does come into play. Initially, what you're looking at is a map of where you're standing with your trainer, your character, your avatar there on the screen, and as you're walking around, it's walking around the neighborhood, and you could see leaves rustling, at the end of the block, and so you go and towards the end of the block. And once you get close enough, a Pokemon will jump out, and you'll be like, "Oh snap!" and you fucking fight him. Well, you don't fight him; you just basically throw balls at him, and then eventually you capture him. It's extremely easy to capture basically anything you want. You just have to make it to whatever that thing is. But here's the thing: you went to the end of the block to get that, right?
Yeah.
And then once you get there, you notice, oh hey, that park that's a couple blocks down, it's a gym or a Poke Spot or whatever, right? So I could go there to replenish my Pokeballs or get XP or whatever you get from them, right? And then I go to the gym and do whatever there. And so it's like now I feel compelled to just walk down the street. Just I'm just gonna go down the street. I mean, I don't walk. Why not? And it's just like every clicker game where you're just like, you know what? This doesn't take a ton of effort. I'm already out here doing it. I'm already sitting here clicking. I might as well just go ahead and clean. Yep. I'm just going just a little bit more, and that's what happens.
Yep. Yeah, and so you walk around, you catch Pokemon, and then you see there's another one nearby. It has like a little like sort of radar thing where it indicates like, oh, there's totally a Pikachu nearby. You better go walk around and find it, and shit like that. It seems fun. It's so all of the nodes and stuff are based on God, what was that Google thing? Why can I not think of the name of it right now? Yeah,
Google thing.
You remember the Google augmented reality game
Oh
they
yeah,
came
Google
out
Glass.
with?
Oh, the game.
Yeah.
The only game I really thought was
Ingress.
Yeah. Oh.
There we go. Thanks, chat room. Ingress. So all of the nodes and everything are based on Ingress, which I find fairly entertaining because I always kind of suspected that Google was up to something with Ingress, and I don't think that their plan was, man, we're going to release this kind of shitty game, and in a few years we're going to totally sell all of our data to Pokemon so they can make a Pokemon game. I don't think that was what their plan was. But it certainly worked out for them, and I always kind of got the impression that they were up to something with it. But yeah, it's basically like all of that. So as a result, a lot of places became very populated in Ingress, such as the Blizzard campus. So now Blizzard is a gym. The actual like center of the Blizzard campus is a gym.
Yeah.
And like there's a little like play nice, play fair thing around the orc statue, which is a Poke spot.
Oh man.
So yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. Like I was at a bar last night and I was just sitting there and these goddamn Pokemon kept showing up. So I was like, all right, I guess I better capture them. Fortunately, the guys that I was there with, it was a bunch of people from the Blizzard esports team that I was there with, and they were like all doing the same thing. And like at one point, one of them was like, "Oh my God, there's a Pikachu nearby. I'm gonna go walk around and look for it." And so half the table just got up and left. Came back like 5 minutes later. They're like, "Yeah, we couldn't find it." It was kind of hilarious. It seems like a really, really fun game. I hope that they can iron out the issues with it, and I hope that they add like some sort of help or tutorial thing to it because it doesn't have one at all.
Yeah, it doesn't. And as somebody who I'm not a Pokemon guy, right? But I can very easily get sucked into like a collect 'em game, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? I'll just get one more. Just one more. It's that one more thing, you know? And that's absolutely what the game is doing. And so, but the problem is like, I didn't know that, first off, that the Pokeballs are consumable. I didn't know what the hotspots gave you. I had no idea. I didn't know the purpose of a gym. Like, is a gym just like a boss? Yeah. Like, I have no idea what's the purpose of the gym. And that's just because I don't know Pokemon. But the initial gameplay, it's enough to get me into it. But yeah, it doesn't show you anything. You get in, and thankfully, we all play games. We know that if you see something moving, you click on it. In this case, you tap on it. And that's the way it works. Hey, that thing's moving. I'm going to tap on it. Do battle, throw balls at it. Suck it up. Yeah, you win.
Yep. Yeah. The other weird one is I haven't figured out how you're supposed to give Pokemon their health back. I fought in the Blizzard gym. I got my ass beat. So now I have Pokemon with no health, and I don't know how to change. Like, I know that there's consumables I can use that give them like 20% of their health back, but it seems like there should be some way to just heal a Pokemon.
Right.
And I have not figured out what that is. So if anybody knows how to make my Pokemans have their health back, this would be useful information. I know there's like potions and stuff, but I'm hoping that the answer isn't buy a bunch of potions.
You know, I was thinking about this as I was walking around. I was like, this is probably a one way they could probably make money off this is to reach out to businesses and be like, hey, you want to be a gym?
Yeah.
For, X amount of dollars a month will make you a gym. And if you're a gym, then you're going to get... Because, so I had one at the store to get some bread this morning, and right around the corner, this is like this tiny little bullshit-ass shop. It was a little mom-and-pop strip mall cafe, like breakfast cafe. I would have never seen it because of the way the strip mall is designed. Like, you owned a Lucky's, and then around the corner and all the way back is the rest of the strip mall for some reason, And so I would have never seen it if it wasn't for the fact that it was a Poke spot or whatever. And so I was like, man, like from a business perspective, it's like I would have never seen that spot and known that there was a breakfast joint right there if it wasn't for this. So, if and gyms are obviously my shitty little corner barber in the middle of a neighborhood that nobody's ever been to is a gym. And I told my barber, I was like, yo, did you know this is a gym? Did you know anything about Pokemon? She's like, no. I was like, all right. Well, this place is pretty important. Like, I don't know how to explain it to her. Like, this place is a pretty big deal.
You've built this on top of sacred land. Yeah, there's like a little strip mall right next to where I live that has a pho place in it, and for some reason the pho place is a gym.
Right? Yeah.
And I kind of doubt, like, it's run by some really old Vietnamese people that I kind of doubt know what a Pokemon is. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Like, I feel like Pokemon just made a bunch of people a lot of money. A bunch of small businesses gave them a lot of foot traffic.
Yeah. So yeah, Pokemon Go. It's addicting. It's kind of fun. It doesn't work most of the time, but when it does, it's pretty cool. Check it out. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Pokemon Go, by which I mean speaking of things that go, by which I mean speaking of CS:GO. See, it's a problem when the transitions are too easy. I have a hard time like coming up with one that's actually is like. So speaking of Pokemon Go, by which I mean speaking of CS:GO, more like CS:GO to jail. Am I right?
Oh, there we go, man.
So
where do you begin with this?
Yeah, fun little story. So there is it's called, I believe, the Truth in Advertising Act, or some other similar combination of words, which basically means if you have a vested interest in something, you need to declare that you have that vested interest before you talk about it. It's something that we deal with a lot at Blizzard. Like, I need to, on a semi-regular basis, and I mentioned that I work at Blizzard a lot on this show. Part of that is because, well, it's where I work, so it just comes up. Sure. But part of it is also there's actually like a legal liability on my behalf, or on my part, to divulge that information because we talk about video games. And so if I'm saying I don't like X video game, or I do like X video game, and I'm giving my opinion about video games, then I have to divulge that I work in the video game industry because of there's a whole bunch of different laws that are related to that. And basically the reason that those laws exist is to combat something called astroturfing, mm-hmm. Which is the general whiskey burps. You tend to see astroturfing come up a lot on Amazon, where you go and you look at a product and you see, hey, this all has 5,000 reviews. They're all 5 stars, and they're all from people with the most random ass possible names, and they all say more or less the same thing. That means that what's happened here is this company has put a bunch of reviews on their own product, saying that their product is good, without divulging that they're manipulating the rating system, and they're not divulging that they are those reviews are coming from someone who works at the company. This is a lesson that is being learned very harshly by certain members of the CS:GO community, thanks to some drama around CS:GO Lotto. So if you're even have a passing familiarity with the CS:GO Lotto thing, it's this kind of it's kind of a way. So like in CS:GO, you can get different skins and stuff, and a lot of those have essentially a real money value. And so CS:GO Lotto is this thing where, if I remember correctly, I haven't ever actually used it, but if I remember correctly, it's you can dump in some of your own skins and you get like some value based on that, and then you enter into a lotto and you hope to get better ones back.
Yeah, it's
or something along those lines.
It's gambling, essentially.
It's gambling, yeah.
It's roulette, essentially.
Yeah. So a whole bunch of YouTubers, I say a whole bunch. I really mean like a couple of YouTubers. Mm-hmm. The biggest one, I believe he actually goes by the name T. Martin. Mm-hmm. Have been doing a whole bunch of videos talking about how much they love CS:GO Lotto. It's great. They're really, really big fans of CS:GO Lotto. I think they're doing really great stuff. Yada yada yada. Everyone should go use CS:GO Lotto. What he forgot to mention is that he also owns CS:GO Lotto. So what happened then is now, obviously, he's been advertising that CS:GO Lotto is something that everyone should go use, and trying to present that from the perspective of, this is just my personal opinion. I'm a major member of the CS:GO community, and I think that CS:GO Lotto is great. And not divulging that it's actually his site. and he's directly benefiting from this. So now he's in big trouble. Basically, is where that goes. He's there's a whole bunch of drama that's been springing up around that. There's been lawsuits filed. There's apparently now Valve also has a lawsuit filed against them because
we're being enablers, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a class action lawsuit saying that Valve knew this all along, and also that Valve knows that this site can, because the site doesn't really check. It doesn't really check gambling laws at all, or anything like that, because they're like, oh, it's just video games, whatever, man. It's just a video game. Mm-hmm. And so there's actually been illegal underage gambling, etc., going on with this site. So now Valve has this class action lawsuit against them because they were knowingly and willfully allowing it and profiting from it, because obviously when you buy a thing in CSGO, they get money for it. It's a big giant mess. Yeah, and I'm over here with my popcorn like, damn.
Yeah, so here's the thing with this, right? Is like gambling is CSGO is in the bigger picture, it's a niche thing, right? Like in the bigger picture, meaning all of the US and all of our issues, it's a very niche thing. Gambling is a major thing.
Yeah.
A very, very fucking major thing. I grew up in Vegas, so it's like gambling for me was just kind of second nature. It wasn't until I left Vegas that I realized, I was like, whoa, you mean I could go into a supermarket and there's not like, or to like a 7-Eleven and there's not a row of slot machines right there next to the door? You know, like, and because that's a common thing. You go into any even mom and pop shop and there's like a row of poker machines there. It's just this, it was always there. It's ever present. And that's just because, I mean, it's just gambling is something that needs to be vetted and needs to be approved. And it's like, I mean, to get gambling legal somewhere is like impossible. And so the internet, the wild, wild west, apparently, of when it comes to some of these laws, because it is, the World Wide Web. It's sidestepping a lot of these things. And in this case, we're talking about gambling. Now, gambling has come up before with video poker, or online poker, right? That's come up as an issue before. And there's now tons of things to kind of reclassify that and kind of keep some of that stuff in check. But then CSGO comes around with like skins, and it's like, it's not really money, but it is, and it's got a value attached to it, and they're kind of trying to skirt the gambling laws. But here's the thing: like every state has its own gambling laws, and I'm just talking about the U.S. Mm-hmm. I'm not even talking about anywhere else they cover. Just in the U.S., every state has its own. Fucking every city or county has its own gambling laws, right?
Yep.
And so all it takes is for one just hyphy lawyer somewhere to be like, hey, wow, or attorney to be like, hey, I could make it big off of this. And there's you look at the user list, it's like, hey, there's like here in LA or San Francisco, like there's 500 kids that are under the age of 18 that use this site at least once that I can represent. And I can make it bigger because this is going to go straight to the top. Like, it's gambling, man. It's going to go statewide, and potentially, because of the size of this, it could go nationwide. And so that's something that, as a lawyer, I could look at and say, hey, I could make a name for myself off of this. I will take it and I will try to push it as far as I can. There's probably people like chomping at the bit to take this thing as far as they can. There's already 2 fucking class action lawsuits on it.
Yep.
It's only a couple days old.
Yeah, and like to give a little bit more on what you're talking about like different states having different laws and stuff. It's surprising how widely that varies, and what one state defines as illegal gambling versus what another, and then like different countries as well. So like we end up seeing this a lot in the esports world as well, because video games occasionally have randomness involved in them, and sometimes that randomness can be perceived by some people as gambling. Or sometimes, like WoW has a monthly sub cost, and it costs money to actually buy the game. So now, if you're buying into something and then participating in an arena competition, which has a chance at a prize, some states will see that as, okay, so what's happening here is you are buying essentially a ticket and hoping for the outcome being that you win. And so there ends up being all sorts of legal battles, like there are some countries that we are not allowed to have people play from because the fact that your Frostbolt can do like I'm just gonna use numbers off the top of my head, but the fact that your Frostbolt can do 20,000 damage or 30,000 damage because critical strikes, or Frostbolt's a bad example because it crits for much harder than that. But anyway, but because crits exist, and so you might do more damage or might do less damage, or your heal might do more or might do less. Some countries actually say, no, there's randomness here. That means it's gambling. No one in our country is allowed to participate in your esports tournament. And that's the extent to which this stuff sort of happens. Like, if we're talking about an esports tournament, and sure, there's randomness in WoW, but it's not nearly to the extent to where someone wins. Like, someone isn't going to win BlizzCon with 0 arena experience just because they got some critical strikes. Like, that's not going to happen.
Right.
You do have to actually be good at the game. If people will still define that as random gambling, they're obviously going to find the actual random gambling as random gambling.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, like, everything we've described is simply is actually just the gambling side of it.
Yeah.
This is not even talking about how he pitched it. How he pitched the whole thing and didn't disclose, and then even tried to cover his trail afterwards. Like, Reddit was, like, all over this, man. Like, just elbow dropping this dude left and right. They had archive.org copies of everything. Even that, you don't need archive.org. You even had web archive. I messed up. But anyways, there's basically copies of the history of this guy's description everywhere. And so it's like he changes it to be like, you should not use this if you're under the age of 18 or if the laws in your country prohibit gambling. FYI, like, that wasn't there before. And then, like, the video he posted, did you see the video he posted today? It was mirrored a couple places, but it's been taken down. So the video he gets on and he's like, oh man, it's sickening. It's like, it really is sickening. He should just not said anything. So T. Martin gets on and he's like, the first thing he does is, did you watch the H3 Productions like recap of the whole thing?
No, I didn't.
So it's a beautiful juxtaposition. It was like Daily News style, right? Or Daily Show style, where he goes through and he shows video of him saying, like, oh man, look, I just won $13,000. Oh, it's so crazy. And then he goes back. Then he cuts back to the vlog where he's all like, I would never lie to you guys. I've always blah blah blah. Like, and plays it back and forth, and it's beautiful. But I mean, like, seriously, like, it's just a huge scumbag to do all this, and then to come out and be like, and in total lawyer speak, just be like, hey, I'm sorry if I didn't disclose it heavy enough for you guys, or you guys didn't see it or whatever. Like, it was totally blaming the viewer that they didn't catch it, that he was the owner of the site. But in reality, that was never the case. He had never disclosed straight up that he was representing that site, that he was the fucking owner of the site, He never disclosed that. Oh man, what a huge shitbag.
Yeah. Shitbag.
Yeah, so take a breath here. So I definitely see this thing going bigger and better places. Like, it's gonna be all it sucks that it's like it's in the esports section, right? And it's like, oh, like, I go to ESPN.com, right? It's in the esports section. It's like, man, it's just skins, guys. But you know what? If that's what it takes to get these guys get their asses kicked, then great. But this could happen on so many different levels. But this is probably the most blatant cover up this year, for sure. I mean, probably just in the history of this industry, in terms of like things that can be tracked and proven that you fucked up, and then you try to cover up and be like, hey, sorry you guys didn't see that. I don't know why you didn't. It was pretty clear.
Yeah. And this is also not even talking about like all the allegations that like the actual betting was rigged for streamers.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so like, of course, like, they would go and theoretically, according to the rumors that I've been seeing floating around, they would actually go in and say, this streamer, make sure that they have a higher chance to win. And so then the streamers wouldn't even know about it. And they would just be like playing along, and they're like, "Oh yeah, cool, I'll try this. Man, I seem to win a lot on this. Wow, CS:GO Lotto really is a great site. Everybody should go give it a try," because they didn't realize that they were being given preferential treatment, which is just shady as fuck. Like, if I'm one of those streamers, I am pissed.
Yep.
Which I'm not. I haven't ever used the site, like I said, but like I would. Like, if someone manipulated me in that way to make me think that something was good and make me want to evangelize that to my followers, and then I found out that they... Like, if I bought a nice keyboard, say, for example, and they sent me this really, really high-end one, they used really awesome parts for it, they double-checked 1,000 times to make sure that it worked perfectly, and I was like, yeah, this keyboard's great. Man, I love this keyboard. And then a bunch of people ordered it, but all the ones that you just order off the website are made out of, like, dog shit and taco shells, and people get them and they're like, the fuck is this? This is bullshit. This is not a good keyboard. How dare you? Like, that hurts my reputation. So this is shady as fuck, basically. So yeah, this is not the first time shit like this has happened. It keeps coming up where, like, we saw last year there was a whole bunch of drama around just YouTubers not disclosing that they were given stuff for free by game developers. And a lot of times that's on the game developer. Like, the game developer is supposed to tell people when they give them something, hey, make sure people know that we gave this to... Like, if you do a review on this, make sure people know that you got it for free. And also the YouTuber then has to actually do that. And sometimes they were just never told they had to do that. Sometimes the YouTuber, like Blizzard tells people that, but sometimes the YouTuber would just forget to mention it, or they would feel like they shouldn't mention it because then they would feel like they don't want...
Nobody would trust their opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And so they don't want people to know that they got something for free. And so they want people to trust their opinion, but by thinking that, they have invalidated their own opinion. So yeah, it's there's a lot of this shit going on, and a lot of this is just coming as the YouTube and streamer audience, industry starts to mature, and we keep bumping into these issues. We're like, oh wait, you mean I have to act like a professional and pretend I'm a real company? What is this bullshit?
Yeah.
So speaking of CS:GO, by which I mean, speaking of things going very poorly, by which I mean, speaking of people having to rethink their life's decisions, by which I mean, speaking of products not going as well as their owners would have liked, what's this I hear about Evolve going free to play? What is this?
So, you remember that game Evolved, right?
I remember watching them try to make an esport out of it and thinking that was really weird.
It's that game that people play less than Titanfall.
It's a good way to describe it.
So it was just it was this, like, you know, you have a team of players, like like Left 4 Dead style, right? You have a team of players that are class based, and then you have a monster. So the monster,
it was like 5v1 or whatever it was.
Yeah. So the monster would basically run around, and it would evolve and basically turn into like a stronger, you know, monster, whatever. Then it come around, and it would just fucking kill you and your team.
Yeah.
So it came out, and what I described to you was basically the game. That was it.
Yeah.
There was nothing else. They didn't quite get some part of the formula right that Left 4 Dead got right. You know, I'm sure you probably launched Left 4 Dead 1 or 2 sometime this year, at least once, right?
Not this year, no.
Oh, well, fuck you then. But I mean, but Left 4 Dead, it has that replayability that you could go in, you could fire it up, and you could play.
Sure.
And that's something that, for some reason, they weren't able to nail. On top of that, they were actually, I remember initially when they first launched, they had like a ton of DLC and whatnot. Like, it was just not a good launch. Like, it was like, oh, there's all this DLC and all this stuff. It was just a mess. The game was still the same game that we played at like various conventions, and you're right, they tried to turn it into an esport. I think it was E3 that was there for that, and they had a whole thing set up, and they were casting it and everything, and it was kind of, that's weird, let's go somewhere else. Yeah. I can't hear myself think of this guy screaming in the mic. And I played it a couple times, and I have this, and it was fun. Like it was a fun game, but then that was it. Like after you play it once, it was kind of like it was shallow, and that was the problem, is that it was shallow. And some of the game mechanics, which they've actually changed a lot, it just kind of made it feel like it wasn't necessarily too noob friendly, which you need the news to be able to hang on in order to progress the game. But it just didn't work. So they made a ton of changes to the game for launch. One of the things they did, which is something that on paper I don't 100% get. So one of the things that one of the hunters have is a cage, like a dome that you could throw over top of the thing, and it traps them. Yeah. It belonged to I think it was a trapper that had it.
Yeah, something like that.
So the problem was that I guess that was causing some kind of conflict, because if you had a trapper that's an idiot, then you're never going to stop the guy, and he's going to run around, just basically ravage everything, and then turn into a gigantic monster and come back and just moth through your ass, and that's it, you're done. Yeah. And so they basically took that and they made it so that every hunter now has access to the dome. So I guess it adds a little bit more predictability to the way the game flow is. And so with that, they've actually changed a couple of other abilities and everything to kind of balance things out. So it's funny. It's like now the game's going free to play. It's like now they're making these changes to make the game more acceptable. But it's like, man, like I don't know anybody that's really logged a ton of time in it, and it's like, man, this game is amazing compared to like other games that they've played. Like for example, Left 4 Dead.
Yeah, exactly. Like Evolve seemed to kind of like they had that initial period of it got a little bit of hype, and that was mostly just because they were paying people. They were disclosing it. For the record, they like no one was like, "Oh man, you guys should really go check out Evolve," which I own. But yeah, like there was that initial period of hype, and then it just dropped off. Like no one cared. I want to say as soon as a week after it launched, like it was basically DOA, which sucks because obviously they put a lot of work into it and they really wanted the game to be good. So for I feel shitty saying it a little bit, but I kind of wonder, like, is this really worth your time, or should you just make another game? Like, should you just say, well, that didn't go well, and try again? Try something, like, because obviously there's always going to be an opportunity cost with attempting to do something like this. Why not say, okay, well, we're gonna cut our losses with this one and make Evolve 2, or we're going to do something else that solves the problem. Then Evolve 2 can be free to play, and then you're launching this game that, sure, it's basically the same game again, but no one played the first game, so no one's gonna know. And then I kind of feel like maybe, like it's just weird to me when a game that already no one is playing goes free to play, because you kind of need to swing off of some momentum. Like even WildStar, when WildStar went free to play, there was still a bunch of people playing it at the time, and you need to have that sort of already installed user base to make that transition. Otherwise, there just isn't anyone to be excited about it. You don't get any word of mouth. You don't get any real like, I don't know. Maybe they're planning to have some huge marketing promotion hit that I haven't seen yet. But I don't know. I think it's weird.
Okay, so I just pulled up the list because I remember I'm fairly certain we talked about it on this show, like probably back in the teens, right? Of the DLC that was available at launch, and I remember being upset about this, and I'm sure you'll agree. So at launch, you can. So here's the full information on the Evolve Hunting Season Pass. This is on top of the purchase of the game. Includes 4 new playable hunter characters available this spring, 1 in each class: Assault, Trapper, Medic, and Support. Includes 3 monster skins at launch, exclusive to the Evolve Hunting Season Pass. Blah blah blah. The Evolve Hunting Season Pass contains $29.96 worth of content for $24.99, so you save $5. The then it says the 4 playable hunter characters will be available for purchase individually outside of the Evolve Hunting Season Pass for $7.49 each. The game has a season pass which costs $25, which gives you 3 exclusive useless skins, in which each skin is valued up to $3 each. And the 4 playable characters cost $7.50 individually. So that's an additional $30 on top of that. Now on top of that, you can buy a 4th monster for $15. And then of course there's microtransactions in the game. So it was, I remember we had like 2 lists that we were looking at, and one was like, here's what you get for the base game, and then here's all the DLC that came with it. It's fucking dumb. Like they went over the top, but they've even admitted that though in their interview about this. They said the DLC shitstorm hit full force and washed away people's enthusiasm, dragging us further and further from that first magical pick up and play experience. Yes. Yeah, on top of the fact that it was shallow in terms of content, probably because you had to buy a majority of it, but it just fell flat, and it was, like you said, it was DOA, had way more hype, like none of the hype carried over from before launch to actual launch.
Yeah, and I remember looking into I'm remembering these conversations now and looking into the whole, like all these different options, and I remember looking at them and looking at the list and being like, hey, a lot of people are talking about this game, it sounds kind of interesting, and going, okay, well, this is too complicated, I don't want to figure out which one of these I want to buy, so I just up and dropped it, and I don't know, man. Like I said, I kind of feel like maybe their better option would have been to just do something else.
You think so? Just move on to something else altogether?
Yeah, like either something else altogether, or like come out with Evolve 2 and say, oh yeah, Evolve 2, yeah, we fixed all the issues with or an expansion to Evolve or something. Like just do it, pull a Reaper of Souls and say, hey, remember that game that had a lot of hype that you guys were upset about? Well, we fixed every single possible issue. Please give us an extra $60. It's worked for a lot of games in the past, not just Reaper of Souls. That's just the example that comes to mind, or Diablo. Sorry, this is the example that comes to mind. Like, I think there are better ways to do something like this. Just start fresh, and just go for. I don't know. I haven't paid a ton of attention to exactly what they're doing with Evolve going free to play. I'm probably not going to. I'm in the already lost camp. So it needs to be something that can build, like, just going free to play does not build hype. You need to go free to play in a way that is exciting and sounds new and it sounds like a brand new experience and so on. You can't just say, we're going to go free to play now and we fixed all the issues. It's like, okay, because going free to play is usually seen as a sign of desperation. You kind of need to hide the going free to play under a whole bunch of cool new stuff.
Yeah. Well, in this case, they did. They hid it underneath all the gameplay changes and whatnot. But
not really. Like, I don't think gameplay changes actually hide it.
Yeah, because it wasn't content. It wasn't like anything new. It was just. We flipped a couple integers, and that was pretty much it.
Like, you need to. So, what I would say, if I'm describing Evolve going free to play, same way I described WildStar going free to play. I'm trying to convince somebody else to say, oh yeah, it's free to play now, and they added a bunch of stuff, or it's free to play now, and they fixed a bunch of issues. That needs to be flipped around. It needs to go, oh yeah, Evolve, it has a new expansion, and it's free to play now. So that way you go, oh, cool. Like, the free to play needs to be a perk, not the draw, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Apparently I was a robot for a second.
It's okay. You have your recording. It's all that matters.
Yeah.
The live crew could deal with it. You guys use this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Beep, burp, fuck free to play. So speaking of things going free to play, by which I mean speaking of things going free, by which I mean speaking of releasing things into the wild, Turbine has released many, many poor captive game developers into the wild from whence they came. which is it's a much nicer way of saying Turbine just laid off a shit ton of people.
Yeah.
And the reason, so game development layoffs, they happen all the time. We tend to talk about them on here because they're a big deal, and they oftentimes affect people that we know personally.
Yep.
This one's really weird though. Turbine has been struggling for quite a while. Turbine had Asheron's Call ages ago that they worked on with Microsoft. And then they came out with Asheron's Call 2, that failed. They came out with Lord of the Rings Online, and to some extent DDO. And Latro in particular did well for a while. And it sort of kept them afloat, I think, for a long time. DDO kind of almost did okay, I guess. It definitely had its subscribers, but
yeah,
it wasn't like no one ever thought of DDO as a top tier MMO, whereas Latro did kind of have that brief period of time where Latro was the WoW killer.
That's how we rank them.
Yeah. Has anyone ever called this the WoW killer? If yes, okay, you get to join the WoW killer club. With such wonderful ranks as Warhammer Online and Age of Conan.
Not terrible games, just not great.
Yeah, exactly.
Lotro, I would say is probably the best of those three. AOC,
and
Warhammer, and Lotro. Lotro is really good.
Yeah, it is actually legitimately a really good game.
Yep.
I think the problem Lotro actually had was that it was Lord of the Rings. I think people went into it expecting to go on a magnificent voyage, and instead they just got put into the Tolkien universe, which is a great universe. It's cool, but they were expecting to throw some rings into a volcano, and that wasn't what they got. But anyway, what makes this really weird is that Turbine has done all these layoffs, and then their former community... So they actually had their former community manager hinting at it originally, and then Warner Brothers eventually confirmed that Turbine is transitioning into a free-to-play mobile development studio. So... We've seen developers go from being, we're gonna make AAA PC titles, and then over the span of like 20 years, like go into massive decline, and then like 20 years later end up mostly making mobile games. I don't think we've ever seen someone who's had a top tier title within the past 5 years go directly into mobile development.
I think it's definitely a really, really strong pivot. But I think it's a pivot that they're doing because they are just basically reacting to, they're catching up, essentially. Yeah. But at the same time, it almost feels like they're following a trend, and they're trying to jump in and get their hands on some of that mobile money.
Oh yeah.
I think we all agree that MMOs on PCs are pretty much like if you're playing one now, great. I'm glad that's happening for you and whatnot. But like new MMOs happening, it's just not a thing anymore.
Yeah, like the industry has World of Warcraft, and if you don't like World of Warcraft but still like the genre, you have a few other flavors you can try. But it's pretty much WoW is the industry at this point.
Yeah. No bias there, right? No.
no bias whatsoever.
No bias, just data. So it's and it's the same thing is happening to MOBAs right now. It's always been, the kings have always been Dota and League, but there was always others that would come out and try to compete, and now it's just like the gap is just so huge, it's just not happening. And MOBA is now becoming a bit of a poisonous word to attach to your game, anyways.
Like you see games like Heroes of the Storm, legit, like very good game. I actually think it's really, really well designed, but it's so tough to compete in that space because people are so ingrained into League of Legends and Dota at this point.
Yep. And so it's right now there's a shitload of money in mobile. And if Turbine has, if they've already sat down and built an engine and everything to run on iOS and or to basically, if they've already set themselves up to develop on iOS and Android, then they could probably take some of these games that they already have and repurpose, especially if they have the license for some of these things still.
Yeah.
They could repurpose these things to work on mobile. Like they could have a Lord of the Rings online or Lord of the Rings game on mobile. They can have a Dungeons and Dragons if they still have the licensing rights to do that.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. It's like why sit there with two of the biggest nerd fucking IPs that exist.
Yeah.
The biggest, right? And sit there on a dying platform. Why? There's no reason to. It's like hop on something fresh, get on mobile, create a couple spin-off games using Dungeons and Dragons and Lord of the Rings and whatever else you might have under your belts, and that's it. People that were playing Asheron's Call are now playing mobile games while they're sitting on public transportation trying to get to work. So why not make an Asheron's related game on mobile devices?
Yeah,
because that's where we're all at right now.
And I would be totally into that too. Is the thing. Like I would love to have something that can give me that sort of MMO feel on my phone that I can just pop into when I have 5 minutes. Because that's kind of the big, like I spend a lot of time playing mobile games. For a long time, it was Trials Frontier. Played the shit out of Trials Frontier. I'm still I haven't played it in ages, and I'm still ranked in the top 1% of people that play that game in terms of just times on different tracks. I haven't played it in ages. I Eat Crayons has been passing me on all of my tracks recently.
I think he's here today.
Yeah, I keep getting notifications. I Eat Crayons has passed you on this thing, and I'm like, God damn it! But now it's Clash Royale, and I'm just fucking hooked on Clash Royale. To the extent that I now have 2 Clash Royale accounts that I switch between because I felt like playing it twice I don't even know why I did that, but I still keep up both accounts. And I actually installed an Android emulator on my PC so that I could play it with a mouse and keyboard. So that's how hooked I am on that. And the biggest reason, honestly, like mouse and keyboard playing it on a PC aside, the fact is, like, I can pull out my phone. I've got 5 minutes. Yeah, I'll play a round of Clash Royale. I can play a quick round, pop in, open some chests, try and get some cards. Still don't have any legendaries. Fucking shit. And then just move on with my day. Like, that's the sort of thing that I really like. So, and that, like, being able to find those gaps in my schedule is the important bit. Like, I'll have every once in a while, I'll be at work, and I'll have 5 minutes before the next meeting. Can't really accomplish anything in those 5 minutes. I'm like, sure, I'll get a round of Clash in, no problem. And being able to get something MMO-y in that same amount of time would be amazing. You have to do a hell of a lot of rethinking of the way an MMORPG works, but I would love something like that. So, despite the obvious, like, it's very sad for all of the developers who now have been laid off. I'm kind of interested to see what comes out of this because, like I said, like, this is the first time we've seen a company that we know can put out good PC games, not the best, but good PC games, just say, all right, no, fuck it, we're going over to mobile now. We're just gonna straight up switch off of this and go over to mobile.
Yep. Well, good luck to them. I look forward to seeing what they put out, and obviously good luck to all of the developers that left. I didn't see a number anywhere on how many there were.
Yeah, I didn't either. They said we are eliminating some positions.
Yeah.
From what I heard, it was pretty massive.
Really?
It sounded like, and that's just like rumblings. I don't know anybody at Turbine.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I heard it was pretty big. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Let's hope.
So speaking of mobile games,
mm-hmm.
by which I mean speaking of Clash Royale, because it's the only one that matters right now. I love Clash Royale. I was just talking about how much I love Clash Royale.
Yes, you were.
God damn, their tournaments are bullshit.
Why? I feel like that's like one of their biggest things. It's getting huge.
So here's the thing about tournaments. The idea is that you can enter a tournament and you can play against other people, and if you win, you get a chest. Inside that chest is a bunch of cards, and you don't have to risk your main. It's just localized inside that tournament. You don't have to risk your main rating or anything for it. And those cards have an increased chance to be a legendary, basically. what it's a cool, like, I like that list of words. Those sentences are nice. There's a lot of problems. One of them is that I would say probably the biggest immediate problem is that it costs 500 gems to start just the lowest level tournament. The most cards you can get for winning, like coming in first place at that point, which is now a 100-person tournament. If you come in first place, you get 30 cards. Conversely, you can spend the gem costs change a little bit based on which arena you're in, which is based on your rating. But at the arena I'm in, I think it's like 450 gems, something around there, for what's called a giant chest, which has like 500 cards in it. So I spend a little bit more gems to basically give a bunch of people I don't know cards. I can maybe get 30 cards out of it, compared to getting a giant chest, which has like hundreds of cards in it. Okay.
What?
Yeah, so already that's a bit weird.
Right, yeah, definitely.
They've said that there's a highly increased chance to get legendaries out of these chests, which would be great if that was actually the case, but thus far, like, it's a small sample size. I've opened 4 of them so far. I've gotten an epic, and that was it. No legendaries yet. I'm starting to wonder if maybe I'm just not allowed to have legendaries. But it does not actually seem to have an increased chance. And even if there is an increased chance, depending on how that works, if it's a per card increased chance, having 500 chances at 0.1% each is better than having 5 chances at 1% each. Just the way math works.
Right.
So, yeah, that's a bit weird. There's a lot of problems with actually joining them. They just increased. It used to be that the lowest level tournament could only slot 50 people. Now they can slot 100. But the problem is the way you actually join one is you go to a list of some tournaments that are in your area. And it just shows you a list of them. And because nobody actually wants to start tournaments because it's a fucking waste of gems.
Because it's a loss, yeah.
Yeah. You get a list of like 5 that are going on in the United States, and they're all full the second you see them. Like, even if you see one that says 1 out of 100 people is in it, it will be full by the time you can connect your thumb to the join button. Like, I've seen so many. Like, I've seen tournaments that are called 1 out of 100 full, because that's just how that is. The way you the way it ends up working is you just have to mash and hope that you eventually get into one. One other thing that's weird is the tournament organizer can determine how long the tournament lasts, but there's no increased rewards for it lasting longer. So there's no reason for me to ever join a tournament that lasts longer than an hour. Like, I could join one that lasts 3 days, but all that means is that I can't join tournaments for 3 days. And then eventually I get the same rewards that I would have gotten from a 1-hour tournament. So that's a bit weird.
Yeah.
There's this annoying, like, location stuff where it will say, like, hey, here's the person that organized it. They live in Irvine, California. And that's fucking weird. Like, I don't... Like, sure, Irvine's a big enough city that people know that I live here anyway, so I don't particularly mind. But if I live in some tiny-ass city somewhere, and it says, hey, this person lives in Battle Creek, Michigan, like, that narrows it down. This person lives in Ceresco, Michigan. Okay, there's 5 people that live in Ceresco. Like, this is a problem. And apparently, I haven't actually seen this happen, but I've seen people saying that live out in the middle of nowhere, that sometimes if it can't figure out what city you're in, because you live just out in the middle of the desert somewhere because you're a hermit, it will just put your GPS coordinates. So that's a problem. God, what are the other issues? There's so many. I posted a big thing on... the biggest issue that I find with it, personally, like, all the other stuff makes it not kind of work very well. Sure. The biggest issue I've found with it is... when you're in the tournament, you're looking at the list, you have the option to spectate other people that are playing games currently. And that's cool. Like, being able to watch other people playing games, that's cool. The issue is I can go through that list. I can also look at everybody's profile. I can see what decks everybody runs. So when I see some, I personally struggle with people that do, it's called a giant Sparky push. There's a legendary card, which I don't have because it's legendary and I'm not allowed to have those, called Sparky. And they'll drop a giant, they'll drop a Sparky they'll drop a Sparky and then they'll drop a giant right in front of it at the last minute. And so it's very difficult for me at least, because I'm terrible, to position my units to attack the Sparky, which will one-shot basically fucking anything if you let it attack, instead of attacking this giant in the front, which is just massive. So I struggle with that a lot. So what I'll do is I'll go through the list, find everybody who's running Sparky, and wait until they're in a fucking game before I queue for a battle. So that way, I never have to fight that. You can also just like look at the way the list works. You can see who's on top really easily and say, oh, those guys are pretty good. I don't want to play against one of those. I want to play against some poor level 8 that doesn't have any cards, who's got 0 trophies, but it doesn't matter. I'll still get 15 for winning and slowly work my way up the rank. There are a lot of issues with it. There are a lot of issues.
Fuck, I don't even.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a mess.
Yeah.
Is this something they're gonna fix? I mean,
I hope so, man. Like I said, I really like the game, but I might end up just sticking to the normal ladder and ignoring tournaments,
right?
Because they're just it doesn't work. It's not very fun at the moment, and like. Nowadays, like, because they increased the size of the tournaments in the smallest tournament, which is the 500 gems one, which is what everybody's doing, because why the hell would you spend 1,200 gems to give other people cards?
Yeah, exactly.
For comparison, 500 gems is, I think it's $5 off the top of my head. So 1,200 gems, you're talking like now about $12 basically. So anyway. The only tournaments are the ones that are the 500 gems, which means that the first place gets 30 cards, second place gets I think it's 20 cards, third place gets 15 cards. Then after that, it's a bunch of people get 8, and then a bunch of people get 4, and then a bunch of people get nothing. So if you can't consistently come in at least in the top 10, the top 10 is where it switches from 8 to 4. So if you can't come in the top 10 in this 100-person tournament, you get 4 cards for your time.
It sounds like gambling to me, man.
Yeah. So yeah, everybody should go check out ClashRoyaleLotto.com. It's really good. You can totally get some stuff.
I found these cool guys. Cash
totally just happened across them. Yeah.
They
won $1,300.
They're gonna sponsor me, which is great.
Yeah.
It's great that someone like that would look out for someone like me.
Yeah. So that's my rant on Clash Royale tournaments. I just had to get that out there because it bothers me. Because what I really wanted, because I love the idea of these tournaments, but what I really wanted was I push a button that says I want to be in a tournament. It matches me up with a bunch of other people around my skill level, and then we fight for cards.
Right.
That would make sense. And that could be even like, oh, come in top 3 out of this tournament of 12 people, and then you get cards. Otherwise, you don't get any. I would be fine with that. It could still be that you get 10 cards for coming in first place, and I would be fine with that. But instead, it's hope that someone else spent $5 so that you can get 4 cards for 3 days worth of your time.
Yeah, there's no guarantee. And the time, Jesus, forget it.
Yeah, exactly. Hooray. But it's still an amazing game and everybody should play it.
Just not that part.
Yeah.
Just any other part but that, yeah. I still haven't played it.
No, everybody else should organize tournaments. So I can get my free cards.
I haven't played it. I haven't played that game at all.
Man, you're so wrong.
I know.
I respect your opinion, but it's stupid.
I think it was because I kind of despise the Clash Royale, the initial.
Clash of Clans?
Yeah, Clash of Clans, thank you.
Yeah, I also don't like Clash of Clans very much. I like Clash Royale a lot. It's like Hearthstone, but things actually fight things.
Oh, man, I don't play a lot of mobile games is the thing. Like I'd rather just fire up some shit on my computer, but why am I searching this right now? Why is there a Ghostbusters game? Go fuck yourself. already know it's not the one I want.
Yeah.
God damn, doesn't that movie come out soon?
I'm not sure, actually. I lost track of it. Let's find out.
It might be a good thing.
Oh,
Ghostbusters, July 14th.
there we go.
Well, July 15th technically, but you can watch July 14th. So, hey, in 1 week. Yay. I didn't mean to transition to that. There's plenty of other movies to talk about, I think. I'm installing Clash Royale, just so you know.
Nice.
Wait, is there crossplay?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Wait, can I join the DigiWho clan?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
There's 2 of them.
There's 2 of them? Do I get my own?
do you want to make your own DigiWho clan?
It's going to be like Warframe. We're going to have like 8 fucking clans. Can break everything. Fuck.
Man, I wonder if I can rename the DigiWho clans. I should name one like DigiWho Black and like DigiWho Red.
Yeah, I'll probably check this out, depending on which one of these screens I put the fucking game on.
Went too far away on my phone. Can't find it.
There's no way I'm swiping my thumb 8 times to the left to get to this game. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
All right.
I've run out of words.
Me too. I still have a fucking headache, man. Fuck.
That's
Ibuprofen's bullshit. All right. So next week then.
Yeah.
Hold on. I feel like we should do this. Hold on.
Okay.